Town in the house. Detroit?
Peace, how you doing?
Oh boy. Oh boy. Here it come.
I ain't got that much to say about Obama. I've been talking about him since he was elected. We all know I hate his guts. I was curious though. Did you see a documentary called Trouble the Water?
Oh man. I don't know.
If not, it's on Netflix. I suggest to everybody listening look at that documentary because it's about Hurricane Katrina, and it was filmed as it was going on, but it was filmed by black people who were living there, just regular, everyday black people, just happened to have a camcorder. And so it's from their perspective what they actually dealt with. And it will take your breath away. You will feel so many different emotions because it's like you're there, and it's crazy. So anybody, because we were talking about Katrina a little bit, I would strongly suggest you watch that documentary. It's very well done. I know earlier you were talking about the Nation of Islam a little bit, and I was real disappointed with that when I saw these Muslims voting for this man because, we're supposed to be following the messenger, and the messenger said, we don't vote, period, because he knew what the system was. He knew voting wasn't going to get us ahead or get us anywhere. And the only politician that he ever gave any kind of accolades to was Adam Clayton Powell. He's been dead a long time, so we ain't voting for him. And even then he said the only time that we would consider voting for somebody is if they put the Muslim program before Congress. Now, homosexuality, integration, all this kind of stuff is not the Muslim program. So everybody that went out for voting and foaming at the mouth, as far as I'm concerned, was either weak as hell or a hypocrite, and they should be ashamed of themselves.
Woo! God, this kind of hard.
I'm sorry. No, I'm not actually.
No, you're not. You're not sorry. You do it the way you do it, and that's why it's called War on the Horizon. It ain't love everybody, be everybody's friend on the horizon. It's war on the horizon. That's why they gotta love it.
I know, but it sounds better if I throw that in there. We all know I don't mean it. But it was interesting to me because when I grew up, when I was younger, it was a very interesting time. Because when I was a young child, through elementary school, being a fag was the worst thing that you could be considered or called. You did not want to be, no doubt. You made sure, nobody thought you was a fag. You ain't get uncomfortably close to no females if you was a female, or if you were a man, you had to be macho. You would fight over some stuff. I saw many school ground fights over that. I saw wigs and weeds getting pulled off because of that. You don't call nobody a fag. That was like the worst insult. And then starting like in the early 90s, I started seeing a shift. I had a uncle who died from AIDS. So that kind of made me a little more sensitive to it because I liked him. He was like funny, and to me, back then, that's all that mattered. You made me laugh, whatever. And nobody in my family wanted to be around him because he had AIDS. So I was like one of the main people going around, and I was the only one afraid not to touch him and stuff like that. But then right after that, MTV came out with The Real World, and they had a person on there, a white Cuban who had AIDS. And all that kind of reality TV and MTV stuff really started to soften people up about homosexuality. I still thought it was nasty as hell, and I knew I wasn't going that direction ever. But you started being a little bit more sympathetic. And then they had, I think, Matthew Shepard or something like that got beat up or killed. And they really started pushing this whole, what you see now, this bullying thing and this homosexual thing. And it's been going on a while. So anybody that missed that, if you were born like in the 90s and you missed all that in the 80s, you're going to be very sympathetic towards the homosexual. And it got to the point where now they don't even think it's nasty anymore. They just think it's all right. They participate in it. And it's just been amazing growing up at the time I did and watching that transformation because I got both sides of it. And now we got Barack Obama, and he's going to try to force everybody to be gay. So I definitely cannot go along with that.
You said something I want to mention because you made an excellent point of how things are transforming and they're changing things. When you talk about the bullying, because this is one thing, there's so much stuff that we could talk about. But one of the things we didn't talk about, people don't understand what this whole bullying movement is. Matter of fact, I'm going to tell two stories about this bullying. First of all, the Matthew Shepard case, for people that don't know, there was a white male who was a homosexual going around hitting on guys in class, and they were in high school. And I think the guys took him and did they burn them or did they? I know they murdered him.
know exactly what they do, but I know it was a big fuss made about it.
They murdered some fags. So basically, some crackers murdered a cracker fag. Who cares and everything like that. But I never forget. I was a member of Positive Comedic Visions, and be quite honest, I'm more like when you hear our position now, we recognize that our people have been sexually abused, and that's what leads to the homosexuality. So we at least give that aspect of it to explain how this happens to our people and that it's a war. So that at least a person who might have had that happen and have fallen into this can at least think about it and say, hey, maybe I don't want to do this because this did happen to me and maybe I got in the wrong thing. But just so you understand, when we were first researching it, particularly myself, I didn't know that. I just knew I hated fags. So I had a far less sensitivity whatsoever to anything gay or anything fag or anything dyke, anything. It just was a bizarre, weird crack. I didn't even know black people were involved in this stuff. I'll never forget there was a lesbo in the community. She actually used to go to the African Center stuff and still try to be in the black movement. And I was in an organization called Positive Comedic Vision. And I'll never forget, she came to one of our discussions, and it was the early time. This was before we had DVDs. There were no such thing as DVD. Well, they were DVDs, but you couldn't video on them yet. They were just audio. And we were doing a lecture, and I did a thing on feminization, and I talked about homosexuals and everything like that. I was much more harsh than I am now. No refinement. And I never forget, she came after the lecture and marched up on me, but I thought we were cool. I didn't know what a lesbian. I knew that the thing existed, but I didn't really know what a lesbian was. And I definitely didn't know that no black women was involved in it. I thought she was just kind of tough and black power. And she marched up on me if she did it now, I'd probably punch her in her mouth because it was real bold and brazen. But because I thought we was cool, I didn't know where it was coming from. But she was like, so what you got to say about Matthew Shepard? So you think that you justify that? And because I didn't know she was a lesbian and didn't understand where it was coming from, you don't want to offend a friend of yours, but I was also she was marching up on me, right? So I was like, Matthew Shepard's a white fag. What are you talking about? I don't give a damn about a dead white fag if he's dead or alive. Hell, all them crackers who killed themselves. I was talking like that, but I'm like, what are you talking about? And I'll never forget, Brother Kush told me, he said, yeah, she's a lesbian, brother. And this is where I really found out. He said, we got a lot of these homosexuals that are moving into this movement. This was back in the late 90s. And Brother Kush said, it's a bunch of these homosexuals moving into this movement, and they trying to turn this movement around. I was like, it sounded so crazy and supernatural that I couldn't even imagine it. But that's my first encounter with that. And then as we go forward to this bullying thing, people don't understand to a large degree what the Obama administration is doing with bullying. This is what bullying is. Even though we see an explosion of homosexuality amongst the youth, this is the thing, though. People don't understand. The worst thing you could be in elementary school and among youth is a fag, even to this day. So what they did was say, how do we force the youth to stop? Because basically the youth protect a certain amount of youth from homosexuality because by it being so negative, nobody wants to be a homosexual. So they said, we are going to go under the guise of stopping bullying, preventing bullying, so that none of the young people will be able to criticize other young people for acting effeminate or homosexual in their behavior. So the whole push is to prevent the youth peer pressure from preventing homosexuality from spreading amongst youth. That's what this whole bullying archetype is designed to do. Prevent children from putting peer pressure on other children to be straight.
I agree. That's exactly what it is. And it's sickening to me because, like I said, now you'll say something about gay people, and they'll be like, ain't nothing wrong with that. What's wrong with that? There wasn't no question when we were coming up. Nobody even had to tell you necessarily that it was wrong. You knew a man was supposed to be with a woman. It wasn't, no two ways about it. Anything else was unacceptable. That was innate to you. You saw an effeminate. I don't even think I remember any boys being effeminate. There was a couple girls that were tomboys, but you just didn't see that. You didn't see that because getting called a fag was just it was horrible. So, I agree 100%. The whole bullying thing is a farce, and I think it's mainly designed at black people more than anything.
That's right.
That's why they have all these zero tolerance policies. If somebody hits you, you can't hit them back and all that kind of thing. And that's another reason. That's one of the main reasons I can't go along with Obama because I got 3 nephews that I know, and I got some other ones that I'm just going to claim for the purpose of the show. But I don't want none of my nephews coming home talking about they want to be with Jaquan or they in love with Jerome. That ain't going to happen. I'm sorry, not while I'm here. And that's exactly what they're trying to make it be. Or if they're walking down the hallway and somebody pinches them on the behind, they can't punch them in the jaw. Are you crazy?
Wow. You know, and I'm going to say this in closing this call, but you just brought up something. Most people don't know this. We don't understand the war that's being waged. There's a young brother, go look it up. His name was Price. It's the Price versus Love case. It was in Morehouse University. And essentially what happened is you had a young heterosexual brother that was in college. I think he was a freshman or sophomore, and an upperclassman that was taller than him, like 6 feet. He was 5 something. This young brother was in school, never had an issue. His father was a minister in Chicago. He was a good young man. Never had a case, nothing. He's in the shower, taking a shower, and his homo upperclassman comes and opens his shower. So, of course, the brother's like, what the heck? So he dips and goes to the room, gets a bat, and beats this dude down. He didn't kill him. He didn't seriously injure him. He just beat him down. Do you know that the school of Morehouse not only helped support the police department in prosecuting them, but that this brother got a 10-year prison sentence because he beat down a faggot that opened his shower curtain. No charges were brought against the faggot, and the faggot was supported, and the brother, I know he did at least 7 or 8 years. Every time he went to get let out. Now I want you to understand, brother, we're talking about a brother in college. So really the fags are winning because they have created a climate at Morehouse where no young person speaks out against homosexuality because they don't want to do time. I want you to understand, listen to what I'm saying. I'm not giving you the whole story. Like, he did not do anything, but this dude opened his shower curtain. He flipped like any real serious brother. And a brother from the city, from the hood would have shot him. But this brother didn't even shoot him. He just beat him down. He didn't even try to kill him or nothing, which in my opinion, from an African perspective, he had the right to take his life. Far as I'm concerned, you can come in there on some fag time like that, you deserve to die. But I'm not saying anybody should do that because you will spend the rest of your life in prison. But I'm saying that's how I feel. That's what I believe, that if I had the law that I could write, if somebody opens your shower curtain, some fag, then first of all, he's a fag anyway. I don't think fags should have rights that any African should respect anyway. But this ain't the country that I rule, so you got to go with the rules. But my point is, the fags of Atlanta put a heterosexual, excellent student, good young man in prison, not expelled him from school, put him in prison and supported the police department putting him in prison, stealing his life from him. 10 years of his life, at least 7 years. The last time I checked on the case, he was still in prison. It was 7 years, hard time in prison because he defended himself against a fag. So that's the kind of stuff that this administration is supporting and promoting on our people.
Sir, all I can say is, gentlemen, guard your backsides because they're coming for it.